Now, Positively Ernie with Ernie Anastas, a New York TV legend and radio host with great positive stories and interviews.
Thanks, Ernie. You're the best.
And now, here's Ernie.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Nice to have you here. I really enjoy this program. As you know, I have fun doing it, and we all have a chance to learn something. Today, I want to talk about social media. Wow. And the internet and all the things that are going on. What tremendous power it has. And it influences us in so many ways, whether it's fashion, whether it's food trends, whether it's education, relationships, you name it. And it affects all age groups, including toddlers. Now, you know I have a special interest in young people. I've written a couple of books about teenagers and young children. And I want to talk about that today. And my guest is a very special person. I want you to meet Melissa Tract. She's here right now. Hi, Melissa.
Hi there.
Want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everyone.
I think that's your camera over there.
Oh, hi.
There you go. That's mine. That's yours,
Yeah.
okay? Melissa is a wonderful person. She is a noted psychotherapist. She is specializing in behavioral health therapy. And what she does is she focuses on young people and teenagers and concerned about their mental and health and their well-being in general. And I think that's a great subject. How did you get interested in that?
Yeah, I have always loved working with little kids and teenagers. Even from being just a young person myself, I've always just been drawn to kids, and I think they're really fun. And I come from a kind of creative background where I used to do like a lot of acting. So
oh, really?
Yes.
You were on stage doing performances? Really?
Yeah.
Good for you.
So I was very used to kind of exploring the emotional inner world.
Yeah.
And but I wanted to do something more kind of stable with my career. So that's kind of how I got to therapy, where I can still kind of explore the emotional world of people, and I get to do it with kids and teens. So it's a lot of fun.
Melissa, I am very high on passion. I think it's a very important part of life.
Yeah.
To really love something. And it could be anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be some lofty thing. It could be whatever it is. Just something simple that says to you, this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is what I'm committed to, and this is what I really love doing. So I'm glad you found that passion in life.
Yeah.
And this is an amazing subject. I started to talk at the very beginning about how it affects us in all walks of life. Let's talk about young people.
Okay.
Young people and teenagers as well. And we're trying to help parents out.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's talk about the do's and the don'ts of how we work with social media. We know it's a part of life.
Yes.
And we have to find a way to deal with it in a positive way.
100%.
So let me start off with what you should do. What's the best way to handle social media and your children?
Yeah, so I'd say one of the number one things we try to tell parents is we say gently and healthy monitor. So you don't want to be so overbearing that you're, being really extreme and you're not letting your kids ever go on social media.
Yeah.
You want to be able to set limits where you can still guide them in the way that doesn't feel so overwhelming that they feel that they can't go on it at all. Mm-hmm. Of course, depending on how old they are, there's certain content that maybe they shouldn't be, looking at.
So do you explain that to them before they start? Do you kind of give them an overview of what's on social media, what they should be watching or be careful about?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think, generally speaking, for the younger age groups, if we're talking about elementary school and really just elementary school and younger, we're not really guiding parents to have kids go on social media at that age. Like if we're talking about Instagram or TikTok or any of those other things. In fact, a lot of times we say wait until the kids get into middle school.
Yeah.
For apps like Snapchat is one that I hear about a lot. So we try to kind of allow the younger ages to do different kinds of things besides being on screens. Or if they're going to be on screens, maybe they'll just be kind of, I know there's a bunch of different music shows that are really educational for kids. Mm-hmm. We'll tell them to watch that. So
parents should be selective. Sit
yeah.
down. Most important thing, like we're doing right now, eyeball to eyeball
100%,
conversation.
Yeah.
Because, with the phone and everything else, we're not doing that.
100%.
So, okay, that's a very important thing, to sit down and talk to your children.
Yes.
Face to face and take the time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids will just say, a quick answer.
Right.
How do you handle that?
Yeah, I think it depends. But, if you're asking your kid questions and they're not really answering you, you might just say, hey, it sounds like you might need some space. Let me know when you're ready. what's going on right now. It seems like I'm annoying you, like really let them know that you can tell that they're kind of giving you these answers, and kind of just meet them where they are and trying not to kind of get something out of them so they feel they have to give you something. Even just saying something like, I'm here when you're ready, love to hear about it.
Yeah, that's it. Just be available.
Yeah.
Best case scenario is that you've explained to your children what it is on social media, and trying to avoid any problems. Now, how do we avoid those pitfalls? Because they're out there. I mean, this is what you do. You're a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
You deal with this. And a lot of young people are really harmed and hurt in many ways. And, we can go to the extreme, and we know what happens when some children get super depressed and anxious about everything that's going on out there. So try to help us through that. With your professional experience, you're talking to a parent and you're saying, this is how you have to help your child. And then I want you to talk to that child. I want to hear how you would talk to a young person and how you can help them. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just to be clear, though, you're talking about social media specifically?
Yeah, so I guess social media, it's kind of an overall subject, isn't it? It's social media and it's the internet.
Yeah.
It's a combination of all of that.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to separate it all, because it kind of blends, doesn't it?
Definitely,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
I mean, I would say, first I would have the parents and the kid come in and we talk about social media, what it is, what they're kind of interested in. Depending on their age, I'd kind of go over what is appropriate for them and what's going to be effective, and depending on how much social media they're using, then, we kind of have to discuss it individually. I know, I'm trying to think of a case. A couple of weeks ago, I had a kid who was just like obsessed with TikTok, couldn't get off of it. They're in middle school, and they were also begging the parents for Snapchat, but the kid was contacting, boys and,
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of pressure, yeah.
So we had to kind of figure out a way so that, if the parents completely blocked it, then the kid would probably try to see the boys even more, or talk to them even more. So again, it was just kind of helping that kid, normalizing the kids' feelings. Hey, it's normal. A lot of your friends are on social media. We totally get that you want to be on it right now. And also, let's look at the pros and cons. Like, is it really okay to be speaking to strangers on the internet? What could happen if you speak to a stranger? I had another example where a little kid, an 8-year-old, he was on a video game, a social media video game, and an older teenager was playing with him, someone he doesn't know, and he said, give me your mom's phone number. And the little kid didn't know what to do, so he gave his mom's phone number. And then the mom gets a call in the middle of the night from some random kid. And, at first she was really scared. But then, this just happened. They came in, the two of them, and we sat them down. And again, we just spoke about pros and cons, what could really happen. A lot of times kids are making these decisions or using social media, and they're just not aware of the consequences.
Of course,
it's all about
so
that.
young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all about that, like, instant gain, instant gratification for them.
Right.
So once you kind of explain it to them, not in a teacher lecture way, but in a kind, gentle way, sometimes that can help too.
Melissa, what we're talking about here, when we're discussing young people, and we know what the word is, and it's innocence.
Yeah.
These sweet children are innocent. They haven't had the experience and the exposure. It's going to come. Unfortunately, in many different ways.
Yeah.
I hope in good ways, but sometimes they're negative experiences that are really painful and long-lasting.
Yes.
You know that.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, how do we harness, this innocence to keep it, fresh, but at the same time to give them the knowledge and the experience to protect themselves? I mean, that to me as a parent, that to me has always been important.
Yeah.
How do you give them, the wings to be able to fly, and yet the roots to be able to know who they are and what they believe in?
Yeah.
That's a tough challenge.
Very tough.
Yeah.
We call that kind of fostering independence versus fostering dependence, right? We don't want the kids being so, clamped back that they don't know what to do. They have to depend on their parents all the time versus being so not with their parents that they're just kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah. One of the other issues, and I know you talk about this, it's boredom. A lot of kids start getting bored. And, they're just stimulated all the time with different things. And then when that dies down, when there's a lull, they're bored.
Yeah.
And isn't that a troublesome area?
Yeah. I mean, trying to help kids go back to doing things that, people were doing years ago before social media and before going on screens, getting them outside, doing fun activities, doing helping them, cultivate a hobby they're really interested in, having them go to a class, talking to their friends and finding out, oh, Mom, my friend wants to do this art class. Can I do it with them? Ultimately, like having them do these different activities and having them feel passionate about something can really help with that boredom. And also helping kids realize that it's okay to feel bored, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we are going to feel bored, and that's okay. And maybe we just need to sit with it and be okay with being bored. Maybe it's okay to take some time and feel bored. I think the other problem is feeling like we always have to do something. Sure. But can we just be okay with sitting?
I know. Melissa, try to help us feel better, okay? Because, I know, listening, because of my parental background and my experience and so forth, that I can really get myself a little on the downside. And that's rare for me because I really believe in young people. They are our future. Yeah. And we need to protect them. And so what I want to do is I want to kind of try to find a way to lift us up a little bit in terms of letting people know that there is hope and working with their child to be able to save them from some things that can be really painful and dangerous for them. And I want you to just elaborate a little bit more on that because you work with a lot of clients. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of situations where kids have really been in bad shape. Yep. And parents are just pulling their hair out and saying, I think I'm trying to do the right thing. So in terms of bringing us back to solidifying a plan of action and knowing that there is a way, give me some good stories that are happening with young people that have been able to use social media in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can, think about a teenager that I was seeing. I've been seeing her for a year and a half now. When she first came in, a lot of social media use, not using it really effectively, using it just for purposes that were not effective for her. And then at this point, we kind of helped her develop a hobby, helped her develop something, and she realized she really loves crocheting. So we helped her kind of get out there, start teaching a class, start teaching friends, and now she's actually made some videos using social media to show about her crocheting.
I love that.
So now she has a whole different kind of idea of social media in that sense and isn't really going to it for the ways that she was before because she has this new...
So kind of what you're talking about is redirecting this energy.
Exactly.
Taking them somewhere and letting them explore it, but you also have to give them some ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You have to share something that might interest them and excite them and do a little homework and find out what is going on out there. Yeah. You probably have heard this, and I've heard it a lot lately. People that I've talked to who have said to me, as a parent, I am listening to my child and I'm hearing from some of the teenagers, and I'm hearing from some of these other young people, and they wish, this is going to sound weird, they wish they didn't have the cell phone. They wish that they didn't have the internet and social media. When they talk to their parents, many times they'll say, gee, I wish I grew up, in a different time. Have you heard this? A lot of young people are really upset with what's going on, and it disturbs them, and they kind of wish that it wasn't happening.
Yeah, I can't say I hear that so much with the teenagers, but I definitely hear it for people in their late teens and mid-20s. They're more seeing like the power of social media and how it's maybe not been so helpful and being like, what was it like before then? What was it like without these things? So yeah.
I think that, that's happening because a lot of young people are getting fed up. Some of them, as you say, could be hooked on something, whether it's TikTok or whatever. But there are other kids that are saying, I'm tired of this. Yeah. You know what? It's enough already with everybody posting and doing and making us feel like, they're having a great time and I'm not. Yeah. Isn't that a big part of the problem?
Huge
less?
Problem. Yes. Feeling less than, feeling inadequate, also getting bullied on social media.
Bullied?
Yeah. See that happen.
That's still a problem.
Huge problem.
Were you ever bullied?
Trying to think.
Yeah, maybe a slight situation.
Yeah, I think so. Like maybe being left out or being, just talked about behind backs or something like that, for sure.
I experienced that when I was about 13 years old. And this is a crazy story. I haven't shared this before. But 13 years old, I was going to junior high school. And there was a guy who was very popular. And he befriended me, and we started talking and so forth. And one day, his dad came by with the car, a convertible, And we went for a ride, and his girlfriend, if you will, was in there, and a couple of other kids. And for some reason, the girlfriend kind of liked me.
Okay.
Liked, when you're 13 years old, I like him.
Yeah, of course.
And, and I was innocent. I didn't say anything, but he took offense. And all of a sudden, he turned on me. And all of his buddies were like giving me the bad eye.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling that. And I never forgot that. So I'm very sensitive to kids who are bullied in some way. And you know what? It's not just kids.
No, not at all.
Adults are bullied.
100%.
At work.
Yeah.
Seniors are bullied.
Yep.
In facilities.
Yep.
Talk about that for a minute.
I mean, I can't say so much about it. I mean, I could just tell you from seeing it kind of hands-on from visiting like grandparents and nursing homes and stuff, you definitely see the way that the people working there are kind of making fun of the elderly people and kind of like it's a joke versus, and not everyone is like this. There's definitely very good-hearted people out there who are happy to work there. But, I mean, I have seen, people taking light in it, not taking it so seriously.
I know someone who is now in a center for seniors.
Yeah.
Assisted living.
Yeah.
And she was telling me, she's a lovely lady.
Yeah.
And she was telling me, she said, it's like being back in high school. Like some of the other residents there.
Yeah, the residents.
Someone becomes like a leader.
Yeah, that's
Someone
true.
becomes like a know-it-all.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, they start pushing and bullying people around.
Yeah,
it's a strange thing. It's kind of like human nature, and we have to learn how to control that.
It definitely is human nature, for sure.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's part of who we are, and we have to recognize it. I'm a big supporter of education.
Yeah.
And I think that our schools, home is where it all begins.
For sure.
Number one.
Yeah.
But schools have a responsibility too. Find a way to bring young people at all ages together, help them to understand. They should have, and maybe they do, have some kind of program in school where they have a class or whatever, and they just sit and talk.
Yeah. I worked in schools a couple of years ago, and I would say, a big thing, at least in New York, that we do in New York City schools is social emotional learning. So that's, we would go into different classrooms for just like a little bit, 30 minutes, and do like a little lesson on emotions and things like that. I do wish there was more program-oriented things, though.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I've always felt that the greatest gift that you can give your child is a sense of self-esteem. Good self-esteem.
Yeah.
Once that child feels good about themselves, I think that's a shield.
Yeah.
Because, things are going to happen in life.
For sure.
That's the reality. But if you do have a good sense of who you are, you feel loved and appreciated, and you have a sense of dignity about yourself, well, you carry that for the rest of your life. And you know how important that is?
So important.
So important. Yeah. The movie, Inside Out 2.
Yes.
Big hit. Amazing reviews.
Yeah.
And tell me about it. What's your take on that?
Oh, I loved it. I actually loved it a lot better than the first one, and I highly recommend anyone who hasn't seen it to definitely go see it. I feel like it, first of all, they added an anxiety, and the way that they portrayed anxiety was so well done. There's a moment in the film where the character anxiety is kind of so anxious they're losing themselves. And the way that was portrayed was so realistic and real. And as you were sitting there watching the film, you could really feel it. You could feel it in a way that felt very real. So first I'll just say, that piece, the way that was portrayed was really great. And then as the movie continued, what I really liked was how, one thing in therapy that we try to teach people is that you're not just one thing, right? You're made up of all different emotions. You're not just, it's complicated. You're complex. In the film, because the film starts in the first film, she's a little kid and now she's a teenager. She starts as really just kind of seeing herself as having very simple emotions.
This is Riley, right?
Riley. Yeah. And then basically in the second film, we start to see that it's much more complicated. And we start to see also that anxiety can be effective and helpful, and also it can be harmful. Sure. And then we also start to see how the other emotions, in addition to anxiety, are part of Riley's life. And when Riley started going to a place that wasn't so great, it was when she was focusing on only one emotion, which was anxiety.
Right.
So it was like that opening up of the perspective that I'm not just anxiety. I have this, I have that, and they're not good or bad. They're just part of me. So I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah. So you think a lot of young people who are seeing these films, this one, the last one, Inside Out 2, are benefiting from it?
100%. And let me tell you, so many teenagers and little kids were there.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was filled.
Do you get any feedback? From,
I've been talking to the kids about them.
And what do they say?
They loved it. They're saying the same things I'm saying. I do a specific kind of therapy called DBT, which is about finding the middle. But instead of going to one side or the other, you stay in the middle.
Yeah.
And so they felt that DBT was that idea of staying in the middle, of being made of multiple things, was shown in the film really well. So they were all coming back and being like, I saw DBT in the film.
Yeah.
So I think they did amazing.
So we're talking about a film like that can have, a great influence.
Yeah.
There are a lot of apps, as you know, out there.
Yes.
That young people go to.
Yes.
To try to diagnose themselves with whatever kind of disorder or emotion they may be sensing. What do you think of those?
Don't think they're helpful. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think they're helpful. And I think that if you are really concerned that you have something, like, speak to a professional.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't go on Google either, because, you could type things in and really you could say you have everything and anything. Mm-hmm. And then that's not going to make you feel so good.
Yeah. You got to be careful with, misinformation, of course.
100%.
You're terrific. I'm having a great time talking to you. And one of the questions that I always ask my guests before we close, and that is, I know you're going to have a good answer. If you could give a newborn baby some information, something that they could store someplace and maybe use it later in life and say, you know what, I think this is kind of an evergreen kind of piece of advice that I would like to share with you. And with your experience as a psychotherapist and your background, what advice would you be able to give a newborn and say, hold on to this because someday you're going to use it, and I hope you use it well?
Yeah, I would say for a newborn baby to hold on to, I think this can apply throughout anyone's entire lifespan, which is take what works for you and leave the rest. Yeah.
Take what works for you and leave the rest. Just elaborate on that just a little bit.
Yeah. So in life, things are going to happen that feel maybe not so great, but you don't know what to do with it, or it feels like you have to take it on, or it hurts you. But, you don't have to let it kind of hurt you and destroy you. You can let it be what it is, and then take what worked for you in that and take it with you to bring you forward. Yeah. You don't have to let things that are so that don't work for you take you over and bring you down.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Melissa, when you think about how long, mankind has been on this earth, and all the changes that we've gone through, all the social changes, political changes, everything. I mean, great history.
Yeah.
But the human being, basically, our emotions have not changed.
Yeah.
We still feel the same things. We feel the pain, we feel the anger, we feel the love, we feel the hurt.
Yeah.
We still feel those things, and that really hasn't changed
for
the most part. So when you depart that kind of information to a child, thinking generations from now, that still will apply.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. Thank you so much for having me.
Melissa Tract is a terrific person. And if people want to reach you, by the way, I always give people an opportunity. If you have someone out there who says, okay, I want to contact you, Melissa, how do they do that?
They can go to my website, which is www.mindfulwithmel.com.
Mindful with Mel.
Yes, M-E-L.
There you go. Fantastic. All good things to you and your family, okay?
Thank you
Keep
so
up the
much,
great
you too.
work. We appreciate it. You're doing something good for society.
Thank you so much, Ernie.
Thanks so much, Melissa.
Take
Melissa
care.
Tract. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time. Stay positive.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.